U.S. puts 500 sanctions on Russia, 500 sanctions on Russia, 3 out of 4 banks in China, the largest banks in China, 3 out of 4, all say moving forward, we're not doing business with China. These are all bigger than J.P. Morgan Chase in China. So
bigger with China or doing business with the U.S.?
They will not do business with Russia. They will not do business with Russia. So I can give you the banks' names, Rob, if you want to pull up the banks' names.
I believe you. I'm not questioning that.
One of them, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, then China Construction Bank, Bank of China.
ICBC. Yep.
The only one that didn't do it, that still allows, is the Agricultural Bank of China, all bigger than J.P. Morgan Chase. How much of this do you think is, you've worked with the CIA before, you know how those guys work. You know, if they want to overthrow a government, a country, a president, a leader that they don't like, they can do it many different ways. Do you think there's anything going on here?
I don't think. I think you think a little too highly of that organization anymore.
I think too highly of that organization.
I think you're over projecting what their capability is, or what their willingness is.
Let's change the capability. How about motive? Is their motive still high? If they want to get rid of somebody, do they still have high motive when they don't like somebody and say, let's target this guy, let's get rid of him? Is the motive still high?
I don't know. I come back to the you've heard of Havanna Syndrome?
No.
Pull up Havanna Syndrome. It started in Havana. There was U.S. diplomats working out of the embassy that suddenly got hit with effectively a microwave weapon.
The sounds, yes.
Yeah, microwave weapon, and it's giving them serious TBI and screwing up their vision and hearing. And then it was in Colombia and Vienna and Delhi and even in Washington, D.C. And these are real problems, definitely caused by, it's not made up in people's minds. And for the agency to say, well, it's all in your head, that's a problem. That's an organization I have a problem with. If you're asking your people to go do difficult, dangerous things, right? Because if you're sending a case officer out, they're literally committing an operational act, a crime that can get them killed in a country, to convince someone to betray their country or their friends, an operational act, an act of intelligence. And yet they're not even acknowledging these attacks on their own people. I have a problem with that.
So do you think Navalny was killed by Putin? Do you think Putin is a bad guy? Do you think some of this stuff that's happening simultaneously right after them saying no to the $95 billion, do you think games are being played, or no, it's just whatever we see is exactly what it is?
No, of course there's games being played. And look, Putin has opponents of Putin have a way of falling out of windows a lot. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of directed hits all through there for anybody that's opposing him. There's some kind of a parliamentary election in March. So Navalny having a fatal accident or whatever he had doesn't surprise me, sadly.
Doesn't surprise you?
No.
From being on the inside, not on the inside, maybe Seal. I know you're not going to say on the inside, but were there things, Erik, you knew that, you know, because you're getting certain contracts, you're communicating with certain people, were there things you knew that the media would report on, and you're like, no way, that's what's happening. I'm part of that, and I know that's not what's going on right now. Were there things like that?
That happens all the time, on an almost daily basis.
How big of a scale was it? Or were just like small things? They're bullshitting. It's not a big deal, but they're bullshitting on this. That's not a big deal, but they're lying on this. Or some of the things were so big where you're like, this is ridiculous how they're selling on America and they're buying it.
Some of the nonsense that you see in the media is driven by the competition of the internet. And so they are all in the race to be the first out with a story, which is not so well checked. And they try to make it sensational, to make it click-worthy, effectively clickbait. And so, yeah, truth has definitely been the victim of some really sloppy journalism. And then you add to that nation-state-sponsored propaganda, whether it's from the Russian side or the Ukrainian side or the Chinese or Qatar or from different interest organizations in the United States. There's a lot of propaganda in the world. And so I guess I try to cut through that. I travel a lot, and I meet with a lot of people that are firsthand participants in a lot of those things that are happening, and I can at least ask them what they saw happen.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.